Hello. Oh, look how great to see these beautiful people. Hi. Look, it's Brittany and Ninette and Tina and JJ and Rosalind and Rafina. Mwah, good to see you guys.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited today because I get to flip the tables on Sherry Riker Blue today in her release of her new book. But let her talk about that. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a very, very special Heart Wisdom panel where I am with the co-founder of Books That Save Lives, Brenda Knight. And we are celebrating today the legacy of love with Sherry Riker Blue and the announcement of her new book coming out next week. So let her introduce herself, and then we will let Brenda introduce herself and get on with this conversation.
First of all, thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for filling in. It is kind of funny to be on the other side of things over here, but I'm super grateful to you. And I'm super grateful to see so many beautiful friends here today. I love this. And yeah, so we're celebrating. And, I can't help but first say, Brenda, thank you, Brenda Knight, um, who is the editor and publisher of The Love List of a Lifetime. And this is Brenda's brainchild. So she'll tell you a little bit more about that idea, but I was lucky enough that she came to me to say, I'd really like to do an end of life planner. And what do you think? And I was like, yes, 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 yes. Those of you who know me know that most of my work up until this point has been about celebration and appreciation of the people we love. It's about deepening relationships. And this book is the same thing. This is, even though I know that the titles may feel like, what? Like, how is that so? The thing that I knew instantly when Brenda approached me is that there is no bigger gift that we can give the people we love than to prepare for our end of life. And I'm guessing that many of you who are on here have either heard stories or maybe experienced it yourself where someone has not been prepared, and that could be the legal logistical, that could also be emotionally, and the impact that it has on people and their ability to simply grieve, which is what we need to do. So, and also in full disclosure, I want to say, because most people who know me know this, I'm actually going through, there's just been a death in my own close circle of people. And so I'm really connected to this topic right now. And I'm also probably a little bit more emotional than normal. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think it's also really important not only to normalize talking about end of life, but to talk about grief. They're obviously so linked. Death, dying, illness, grief. I feel like our culture could do a lot better job of talking about these things and being able to share. And that's why, like, I'm so grateful to all of you because I'm looking at your faces and I trust all of you that I can just be myself. Thank you, Rachel.
So you are absolutely in the right place right now. So,
Well,
Brenda, why don't you tell us a little bit about your what you do and your part in this beautiful project?
Yeah, I'm very happy to talk about that. Well, I'm the publisher, and I think it's all because I was a big reader. Like I lived on a farm up a dirt road, and we didn't even have neighbors, and so I fell in love with books and actually plants and gardening and animals. But like books were my favorite, so I just read, and then it turned out that's a good thing to do, like in life, is to have read a lot. You just have a lot of resources you can pull from when you need them. And then I felt unbelievably lucky to get a job in publishing many years ago. And so that's all I want to do is like work with creatives and writers and authors and thinkers and bring their wisdom out into the world. And I had a very specific reason why I wanted Sherry to create the love list of a lifetime. Some of you here might even know this and heard me mention it glancingly, but like 3 months before the pandemic, my partner died, and it was because of sepsis, Rachel. So in a hospital error. But anyway, so when it's the sudden deaths that are the most shocking. All deaths are difficult to deal with, like when you're left behind. But the sudden ones you can't plan for. You don't see it coming. Nobody sees it coming. So you can't have done any of the planning. And so I knew firsthand like how difficult it is to like both grieve that enormous loss and then handle all the business stuff when you don't even know what to do. You don't even have a clue as to what to do. So I immediately knew there was an enormous need for this book. And so I checked out the competition, so to speak. And there's two kinds of other end of life planners. There's the very perfunctory fill in the blank ones. And then there's sort of like the snarky ones, like, I'm dead, now what? Like, and I guess they're, I don't know. Like, I think when you're grieving the loss of a loved one, like maybe snark isn't the first thing that's really helpful to you. So I thought and did research and a lot of thinking, and I thought there needs to be one that is heartful and helpful and loving and guides you through this difficult process, both the process of facing your mortality and like, laying out your plans and wishes for those you leave behind. The other readership for the book is the loved ones who are left behind. And that's always amazing to me about the fact that Sherry, Richert Belul, like the only person that could even do this, was able to write to both of those audiences and prepare them and guide them so gently and beautifully. Like my coworkers, like are very, including Tatiana, are very like patient with me because almost like probably twice a day I get on a soapbox and like preach a sermon about Sherry's book and like how important it is and how unique it is and how helpful it is. There's nothing else like it. And one of the things I always say while I'm like up on my soapbox is 20 years from now, this is the end of life planner that people will be talking about, that they'll say, this is the one that really helped our family. This is the one you need. And so to me, like there's no higher, best use of our time is to help people and to especially help people at this most difficult time of their life.
I, I wholeheartedly agree. And having read the book to cover, and the beautiful thing about Sherry is when she writes a book, she puts QR codes in there. And so that you can actually get personal messages from her during the book. So you feel the heart of the book, you feel
Mhm.
the intimacy of it. It doesn't just feel cold and like just dry. And like you were saying, just the formats and forms and things like that. It's so much more. And I absolutely love that. And especially with this topic, because we are taught to avoid the topic when it's such an important topic to talk about. And and that's why I really was honored to get to celebrate this book with you and celebrate the fact that it's a legacy of love. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how this is a legacy of love. How doing this, how preparing people is the legacy of love.
Yeah, Rachel, and thank you so much. I just adore you, and it's so good to see you. Rachel is also an author with Books That Save Lives, and so it's great to have you here doing this with us. Um, yeah, like I feel again, you guys know me. I mean, those of you who know my work, I'm all about expressing our love, right? This is to me, it's like one of the most important things we could do. Say It Now is my first book that Brenda published, and the thing is, we don't know when we're going to die. And I hate to be the one, if I'm the first one to ever tell you this, I'm sure I'm not, but we don't know. I just heard a story yesterday about a woman who was 45 and she was hit with this crazy illness. I don't even know, I don't remember the name of it, but within a week, she could no longer speak. And then within 2 weeks, she could not walk. And these things happen. And the thing that I would most want for the people in my life is for if something like that happened this afternoon, something happens to me, I want my family, first of all, to know, I'm going to get emotional, but it's like to know how much I love them and to know why I love them and to leave behind literal love lists and notes of love and the stories of my life and the stories of our lives together so that people have that. And then, second of all, I want the process to be as simple as possible so that what they do is they grieve. And I feel like that's what we all deserve. And I told you all that like I'm just going through a death in my circle. Beloved, beloved, beloved person did not have her plans in place. Did not have those plans in place. And the amount of emotional distress that is going on, you know, people, and you guys have all seen this before. It's like, oh, she told me she wanted to be cremated. Oh, no, I'm pretty sure she wanted to be buried. Just that one simple thing can cause so much distress. And even like people, like our emotions are high, right? When we're grieving. And so the legacy of love piece is that twofold. It's leaving the literal love letters and stories and, however we decide to, to display and give our artifacts and our treasures and the things that mean something to us. And it's also that other huge piece of I have an advanced healthcare directive. People know if something happens to me, they don't have to try to figure out what I would have wanted.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful and so important. I was blessed enough to be able to write poems for both my dad and stepmom, and they got to hear them before they died because they were in
Mm.
hospice. So, but that
Oh,
for me was so important because they asked me to do that for them and they got to hear it. It didn't have to be once they were gone that they heard it. So it allowed the legacy of love to continue. And it just is such an important conversation. Brenda, what do you feel like a legacy of love means?
A legacy of love to me means that people think about you often, maybe even every day. Because I
mm.
read somewhere a long time ago that when you really die is when people stop thinking about you. And I remember like that chilled my heart. Like I think I was probably in my 30s or something when I read it, and I realized that it was true. So I think if you you know if you leave people with like your wishes and your love and your messages, like you're never going to die because you're going to stay in their heart, you're going to stay in their mind. Like you even have that book, like the love list of a lifetime that is like packed with like memories, and your spirit, your whole soul is in that book. I mean, I never even really thought about that until this moment because you asked such an awesome deep question, Rachel. But
Right.
that is true. Like that, your book, Sherry, will be people's love for their family and friends in book form.
Wow. Wow. I love that, Brenda.
And in the book, it has so many great suggestions too. And that's one of the things I do love is because it's overwhelming to think about the things we can do to do this. One of the things I love that was talked about in the book was talking about having a living party while you're alive.
Yeah.
I love that where people give their stuff away to you can tell the story about that because I thought that was so amazing. I'm like, I want to do it.
I know, I love that too. And it's again, it's just one of the many ideas. And I want to say this because I interviewed a lot of people for this book. And I really want to give credit to a lot of the people who were willing to share their stories. And that particular story came from actually a dear friend of mine, Suki, whose friend knew that she was dying and she invited everyone and she had this like really Suki always talks about it to this day like Like there was music and there was great food. And what she did was she invited everyone to take items that meant something to them, that reminded them of her, or, that just had special meaning to them. And it's so sweet, right? She got the joy of actually seeing those beloved items go to people who would keep them. And I want to add to that, because one of the things that I've been doing is asking. So in this process, I've been talking to a lot of people that are very close to me and saying, what would you want? Is there something that means something to you? And I've been photographing those items and telling a little story, and then, making sure that it's in a document that says, like, this is good, like my friend Rosemary said, I'd really love that red necklace that you have, because that, it was attached to a special moment we shared. And I wrote that story in the document, and then made sure that people knew it would go to Rosemary. And I think that that's a way, I too would love to have a party like that. And I hope maybe I will have that chance. But since we don't know, this is my sort of like plan B, And so thank you for bringing that up, Rachel. I love that idea too.
Yeah, I just celebrating people while they're alive. It's just such a true honor. And even I was thinking about, like, even with birthdays and stuff, it's would be a great opportunity
Yes.
as we get older, give certain things away at each of our birthdays if we have a party, and keep that legacy going.
I love that, Rachel. And just to add to that, right? Like, so again, end of life is like one of those expressions that we don't actually know what that, you know what I mean? Like I've obviously been immersed in this for a long time now, since I've been writing the book. And I feel like I've adopted that philosophy. This could be my end of life, right? I mean, because we really do not know. And so also adding that idea that it's like, and other people have shared this with me too, that it's like if a niece comes over and I'm ready to let go of something. I mean, I'm 60, I might live hopefully some more years, but it's like to say like, hey, this was your great grandmother's, would you want this right now? I think that's another way that we can do that while we're still alive.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So here's a question. I'm going to go deep because, this is how I go.
We know that's how you roll, Rachel.
So in the book, you talk about how when you really think about when you think about death, you start asking yourself the question, how am I living and how am I loving? Will you talk more about that?
Yeah, I would love to. And then I bet Brenda also has some things to say
Yes, I
about
know.
this.
I
I
was
know.
gonna go there.
Yeah. I mean, it's, my son loves to laugh at, because he's heard this so many times, because one of my favorite expressions is talking about death brings me to life. And the thing that I mean by that is that I think it's impossible to remember we're going to die without thinking, how am I living? And particularly, how am I loving? Right? That I think they just go hand in hand. And I think to me, that is one of the biggest gifts of this book, even though we've talked a lot about it being a gift for other people, which it is. I also know that it's such a gift for ourselves, because to ask ourselves that question as often as we can, right? As often as we can say, I'm going to die. Am I living the life that I really want to be living? And am I loving as much as I want and I can? And my life, I'm so grateful to Brenda. I mean, my life has changed so much in the last year from writing this book, because it has really changed. Even though I thought that I was really well versed at love, it has really deepened the way that I see everyone around me. And that includes strangers, and that's, some of you know me know, I love to do a lot of different kinds of kindnesses for strangers, letters to strangers. But it has really opened me to like, wow, this person's in front of me right now. How can I express love? So Brenda, I'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Yes. Well, in terms of like, what do you want to leave behind? How do you live so that you know that you die well? You've lived well and you die well. And I was thinking about that while I was listening to you and Rachel, and I was thinking that I sort of feel indebted to the Random Acts of Kindness crew that I had the honor of working with, which is, Mary Jane Ryan and um actually even like Sue Patton Foley and others and like just simple acts of kindness and everything. I mean, it's sort of easy to grasp, but it like runs much deeper than we think because like kindness becomes like a mindfulness, it becomes a mindset. And I feel so blessed that like, because we worked on, I mean, there was a book and then it became a movement, then it became like a global movement and a nonprofit organization. So I was just suffused with kind people talking about kindness all the time. And I sort of became indoctrinated, like, into like a life of kindness. I'm not saying I'm the world's kindest person. That would be a good aspiration. I can work on that. But I was just like, it became, it was my world, and so I definitely, it like, became so much so that like I decided, I think this was probably like 15 years ago, that what really mattered, I think I even said it like in the Random Acts of Kindness book that I wrote a few years ago, that at the end of my life, I imagined being like an old lady drinking coffee on the front porch, like looking at my roses that are growing and like just sort of like being peaceful and like sort of thinking about like, well, what did I do in my life? Like, did I give enough? Did I love enough? If the answer is yes to those questions, you have lived well. You will die well.
Oh,
I wholeheartedly agree. It reminds me of when I was taking a course in human development and we were talking about end of life there. That is one of the regrets people have at end of life is how they lived. And to at any point we can shift that. At
yes.
any point. It's never too late to shift it as long as we're breathing. You
Yeah.
know, we can shift it. We can shift it in a moment. And it's such a beautiful thing that we can change and just do the next step. Text that person, call that person, give that thing away, whatever it is. I mean, Brenda, I know for me, I have had people suffering and you have sent them books, you have sent them things, and it's so moving and touching, and it it brings joy to a hard moment. And it's just knowing when that's your place, when
I
it's your
love,
place to do that.
sorry, Rachel, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay.
But I really love what you're saying. And one of the chapters near the end of this book is called There's Still Time.
Mhm.
And that was one of my favorite chapters to write because I know that anybody reading the book still has time, right? Even if we have an hour or a day or a week or however much time we do have time. And to your point, um, yes, and to Brenda's point, like yes to the kindnesses to other people, but also to ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Like again, I think this is it's a twofold gift. It's the gift to ourselves of um, you know, what haven't I lived that I really want to live? Or how haven't I taken care of myself in a way that I want to take care of myself? Or do I have relationships that maybe need cleaned up or repaired? Because I think certainly for me, this is one of the hardest, you mentioned regret. And I think one of the hardest things is when someone passes away and I hear someone say, I wish I had I wish I had apologized. I wish I hadn't left that bitterness between us go on so long. I wish I had repaired that. I wish I had told them what they meant to me. To me, that is like one of the saddest sentences is I wish I had. And that can come to ourselves as well. I wish I'd forgiven myself for this thing, or I wish I had allowed myself the permission to, learn that instrument or go on that trip or, go see my friend, even though it was so costly. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think I think that near the end chapter of the book is so important for people because there's lots of places that we can still live into. Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of something else you brought up in the book, and that is talking about the preparation of things that make you happy at the end. So if things start turning, people know where to go, like playlists and things like that, which I love my playlists. So I was all about that. So I'll let you talk about that, and then we'll talk to Brenda about what she thinks are those good things too.
Yeah, so one of the things, and I'm not sure where this idea dropped in, but I started a playlist a long time ago that I just named my hospice playlist. Again, I think it's a gift to be able to know that the end is coming and to have that kind of like that knowledge and to be in a place where we know. But being hopeful, I call it my hospice playlist, and I now have like 300 songs on this playlist, and each of them has like a particular connotation or story. They're connected to people I love. They're connected to moments I love. I actually just committed to myself that I'm actually going to write out those stories because I think that would be beautiful to have for myself. But that's like one thing in what I call kind of like your go-to bag, right? Like the same way those of us who have had children. I mean, I had a home birth, so I didn't really have a go bag, but I think a lot of people who are going to go to the hospital have a bag ready, and it's got your coziest pajamas and it's got your, favorite blanket. And I think it's a real gift to ourselves to also think ahead of like, if something happened to me and I was hospitalized tomorrow, and then perhaps maybe I had to go into a nursing assistant or hospice, what would bring me comfort? Maybe it's a piece of jewelry from my mom that is definitely in mine, something that connects me with her. It's a few photographs that are especially important. It's those songs. It's my favorite, blanket that my sister gave me. And I think it's really, again, it might sound to some people like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be thinking about that. But the truth of it is, it's comforting. It's really comforting. For me, I feel like so many things are now in place that weren't in place 2 years ago, that there's a peacefulness to it.
I agree. And I love everything that you were talking about there because I have gone through that with hospice with both my dad and my stepmom and trying to figure out the right things to bring and trying to figure out, what would bring them comfort. It's a lot. It's very overwhelming when you're considering the loss of somebody and that's coming soon. So that would be so helpful. I feel like anything that we can do to help is truly, like you were saying, a legacy of love. We're leaving it so that we're not leaving people stressed, and then we're not stressed trying to think of everything we want in those moments either. We have enough on our brains in that moment.
Yeah.
So, it just all works. Brenda, what about you?
Well, I'm just smiling to myself because I'm remembering that I have had what I call my funeral songs for like decades. It's because my best friend Lillian and I lived in the Lower Haight when we moved from West Virginia, and we were super poor and we couldn't even afford like, cable TV or anything. So we just talked and read books and talked and drank tea and coffee, and listen to a lot of music because there was no TV in our world, but we could like, play records that people gave us or records that we would buy like for like 50 cents at a yard sale. And so when we really love something, like, I would say, "Oh, I want that on my funeral playlist, my funeral songs to be one of my funeral songs." And and like for whatever reason I assigned that to Lillian, like that she had to make sure that my funeral songs were like played. And like she gamely like took it on. I remember at one point I said I wanted every version of God Bless the Child like on my funeral list. It's such a beautiful song. And then at the very end, I wanted Led Zeppelin's Ramble On, because like, people are leaving and like they can ramble on, I'll still ramble on. And plus, there's mentions of Lord of the Rings in that song, which is obviously important to me since I'm sitting in a Hobbit house. But in any case, though, I also had the idea that and I don't even know if I'll have a big funeral because I haven't filled Sherry's book out yet, so I haven't planned that out yet. I'm still figuring it out. But if I do, or have there some kind of ceremony, I want to have my library of books, and people can take one, they can take 10,
Oh,
they can take 5, they can take 20, because like that would be my legacy of love.
It's your living legacy right now.
That's right.
oh, Brenda, I love that so much. It's beautiful. Oh, so beautiful.
Yes, got me crying. But yeah, it's when you think about it, and I love the joy that, and these are happy tears because it is joyful. It is joyful when we can think of it in these terms. And that's what I feel like we would be so much better off if we can have more of these kinds of conversations. Does anybody that's here want to share anything just before we go on?
Yay, JJ. I was hoping, JJ, you would jump right in. Here, I can unmute you. It should, do you see it? Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Is that it? Thank you. And I think for Sherry, just getting to know her in the last months or since we've been authors under the same umbrella with Brenda, just the whole idea of the Say It Now, this is such a natural progression from that, because what a simple title, but it's people don't do it. None of us do it. Somebody had to suggest that. And I've taken in all the things you've said in the just ditto ditto, but I have a very strange situation. I come from a family that was super practical and they planned everything. So we grew up poor, we were rural, but we talked about probate like there was anything you're going to probate. And so we're very young and we heard that kind of language. You make it easier for other people. But the second part of the strange situation is I started out with a big family and I'm the last person alive. And by last person, I mean, there's nobody. There's not a cousin or an aunt it's the
Oh.
weirdest thing.
Mm.
And a couple of years ago during a crisis, I went to a therapist and she said, "Oh, you're an adult orphan." And I thought, well, no wonder I feel so bad all the time. That's it. And so my practical self of you're going to do all this with that person and the other person, and there's nobody there. And so I'm not a keeper. I don't have a lot of sentimental stuff. We've moved a lot and I've gotten rid of it. But there were a couple of things. And just one example, my own teddy bear that I got in 1946 when I was born. And so here's Teddy. And well, that kind of bothered me. Old Teddy, because is a living thing to me. And now there's nobody. There's literally nobody. And if you've ever been to an estate sale, it can be very sad. I have seen people's photo albums, their precious mementos, and it kind of makes me sick. I would think I should buy that just to protect it. But I was taking a class at a Benedictine monastery. These nuns were just as fabulous people. They ran all these philanthropic organizations and did all this stuff. And one always brought her teddy bear. She was 90 something when she spoke. And one day she said, something happened to my teddy bear. And if I find out who did it, boy, they're going to get it. I gave her my teddy bear.
Oh,
And I thought, and she died shortly after, and I thought, but that's not the point. I don't know what happened to Teddy. I know he went with
oh,
Sister Sarah to her room, and she brought him for a while to everything she taught. And so to me, that's you have to be creative or do things you never thought you would do, because most people's plans wouldn't apply to me at all. It'd be a funeral with nobody there. And so yeah, so I love what Sherry is doing on so many fronts, but just this one, you can take the concept and apply it to whatever your situation. It is 100% flexible. It's both a one size fits all and a no size fits you exactly. If something you make it. So thank you, Sherry,
JJ, I
for
can't
being
thank you.
you and writing it.
And by the way, we can't help but acknowledge JJ is helping people to age with joy and zest and vitality, and she has an amazing book that is also part of it, right? Like I think this is why you and I connected so well, right? You can't really
Very similar.
separate the two. But JJ, I want to thank you so much because that is such a beautiful story. And I do have people who say to me, I don't have children. I don't even have any nieces and nephews. I don't know what to do with the things that are so precious to me. And, like your sort of creativity with that, and not that I know not everybody loves the online world for sure, but I have had some of the most beautiful moments of my life giving things away online. Like, I don't know, I had some things that didn't mean anything to anybody in my world. And I was like, I had this like vintage Star Trek book or something, and I posted and people were like, oh my gosh, please, my son loves that, da 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 da, right? Or, I think that there's people out there who will love what we have. And you just proved that, JJ. And I think that that was a beautiful example of that. And I wanted to tag on something else because I just heard this story and it really moved me. I'm a part of an organization of death doulas, which are people who help usher people out, kind of like a midwife, but on the other end. And this organization got a call from someone who had arranged for medical aid in dying. And so she knew the date of her death. And she had no one. She had no one in her life. She had no friends to be there. She had no family. And thank goodness, like she reached out to this organization and said, I don't want to die alone. And she just like, I just am so moved by the fact that she reached out. And this organization got together. And I think I wasn't a part of it at that time. I wish I had been, but I think there were 70 people who sent her cards, who offered to be there, like, on the phone or however she wanted that day. And to me, it's another beautiful example of if we end up being sort of at that point where maybe we are the last ones, like there are so many people out there who want to love us. And I guess I just wanted to say that because I think it's important. And JJ, you really tapped into that.
Yeah, and
It's,
that
it's well, I'm sorry. It's a lot broader field of possible love giving and receiving than I ever imagined. And I should mention the only other object came from my grandmother, who was just this hardworking saint and just had nothing except a feather tree, an old German Christmas tree. And I thought, I can't picture this, just some social workers kind of come in here and it'll be laying in the hall in the rubble. And I found it took a while because I wanted somebody who might put it. We're in Savannah, Georgia, a lot of historic homes, but they're really picky. But I found a man who ran an antique shop and I said, just take it. And so it is now in his window. I think he thought there'd be a string attached. There was not. I was just trying to not have it end up sticking upside down in a dumpster. And so now it's in a window and he does his Christmas ornaments and I don't care. It has nothing to do with my grandma. It's a zillion miles away from Minnesota where it started. But somehow there was a connection, like you're saying, with a total stranger that, I'll never see him or the tree again. So it can be done and it feels good. It just felt good. It felt final in a positive way.
and that's what's beautiful too, is it's an act of kindness because it brings that joy to other people to enjoy, and it creates that, and it continues that legacy even if it is with strangers. So it, it all ties in and I love that. And share your books because you have the you talk about the love list in your first book. And those are so incredibly kind and giving, and can be for that person we work with that might not have people, or someone who we love that we just don't tell enough. But all of the things that we can do to pass on the legacy are a gift. and even thinking about our death and what we can get rid of, decluttering, like you talk about too. And I think that's important. I'll let you talk about the decluttering process.
And I love that because Kim just posted the word stewardship, and thank you for that, Kim, because that word stewardship, I had talked to someone who helps people go through their things with end of life in mind, but also again because it gives us peace of mind now. Um, but she said something that really struck me, and it was the word stewardship. That we are here on this planet and that every item that we take in, that we either buy or are given or somehow acquire, that we are stewards. And she used that word, Kim, and I love that you posted that because in a world where we all know, like, there's so much hardship happening to our poor planet. And it really, I started looking at everything I own differently. Like, how could I find a good home for this, for that? It's not all of the stuff I have is meaningful, of course, right? And so I think that that chapter on really like going through our things. And I just want to tell a quick story because this was also something that came from writing this book, which was that I spent Mother's Day with my 25-year-old son sorting through, and I'm not kidding you, dozens of boxes of his school papers, his artwork, I mean, and I am so sentimental. I could not let go of anything when he was growing up, Kim. And my blessed son went through with me and curated. So we have one binder now of things that really matter to him and that he feels are really important. And thankfully, I know it's still hard on the earth, but thankfully, it was paper. So a lot of it, like we had recycling bins full, and I'm not happy about that piece, but the point being that we can enlist people to help us and to do this. And especially if you have things from your children. I'm going to do the same thing with my mom when I can, is to take things and find out from her, like all these things, what matters, and then just have like binders for people. So that to me was one of the great. Oh, Kim, come on, jump on in. I want to hear from you. Oh, wait, I have to unmute you. It should let you know.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So nice to be here. I just wanted to say, if I could, on that theme about things and the meaning they can carry for us. I mean, I'm so sentimental. I still have, well, I've pared a lot down, but like a birthday candle from a cake when they were 2, things. So anyway, so I still have work to do, but I have a system now because it's just wrenching for me to release those things. And yes, lots of papers, kids, all the years. But when my kid's father died, and now we have this house and an attic full of stuff where you just put it there, right? You never look at it, but it's there and it's there, and that's the comfort. Well, that house is in France, and so and the house is going to be sold, so something has to be done. And I couldn't, of course, we gave a lot of things away, and I was happy with it, but a few things I kept, as you are describing with your son and his binder and all that, but some things that still have meaning to me, but I can't have it all. So I take pictures with my phone.
Yeah.
And then I still have that connection because it's not the thing itself. It's the memory. It's a little bit the thing itself, if you can touch it. But then I was happy to let it pass on to someone else. So I just thought I'd share that.
I am so glad you did, Kim, because that is a fantastic tool. In fact, I also, and my son and I did this together, where we would do videos. And he would say, "Okay, Mom, why in the world did you keep this crazy thing?" And I'd say, "Well, because, it's even more fun in some ways for me now, even though it was hard to get rid of some of the things, but to have the videos with him. So videos, photos, you're absolutely right. Those can do wonders. And I'm actually going to make myself a book. I started things I got rid of that I loved. Just a book for me,
Well, and the great thing, you can also make quilts. You can make quilts, and you can make with photos, you can get them together and make a blanket online, and it's actually not that expensive to do. I've done that before. And that way you can cover yourself in all things you love and then pass it on as a hug to the next person.
I love that, Rachel. I
Yeah.
love that. I'm
When
wondering if anybody else wants to jump in. I'd love to hear. I mean, it doesn't have to be about, anything we've already talked about. It can be any end of life topic.
I just wanted to say that like my mom wanted to get rid of my prom dresses, and like you guys can probably imagine that there was like a lot of glitter and fabric and shiny fabrics and all that. And like she looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, "No, I think it'll be really pretty." And then she did, because she was a very good quilter and crafter. And like it was so beautiful. I mean, it was packed away like it was a precious objet that some lucky person will get like someday. But like that's exactly right. You can upcycle things like that, because like I'm never going to be able to wear those prom dresses again because I weighed 12 pounds at the time. But boy, did they make a beautiful quilt. So how can you like
Yeah.
upcycle? And then quilting is something you can do together with friends, like quilting bees and things like that. So that seems like like sort of a lovely, like an even joyous way to like, tackle some of those things. And I feel like it's very important, Sherry, to talk about the fact that like you've instilled your book with joy,
Hmm.
which probably wasn't the easiest thing to do, but because you're you, you found the way. So I wonder if you could just like tell us a little bit about how you did that.
Oh, Brenda, thank you. Yeah, I think that was one of the best missions that you have given me, right? Was yeah, well, one of the ways is what Rachel mentioned, and I'm so grateful. It's actually my friend Tamara, I want to acknowledge her, who gave me the idea of the QR codes. And one of the ways is by having the QR codes that link to audios. So I could actually speak to people. And I wanted people to be able to hear, some of them I start with music. I wanted people to be able to hear the joy in my voice, knowing that they were doing this for the person they love. I wanted to keep being able to celebrate. I mean, celebrate, right? My company is Simply Celebrate. I wanted to keep celebrating every step of the way. And when Brenda tasked me with, like, what does the reader need? What does the reader need? I just kept thinking they need to be encouraged. They need to feel like they're not alone. They need to feel like this process is joyful. And what brings the joy, and I've seen this in my own experience, is what brings the joy. I mean, every time I imagine my niece in Colorado getting the hat that she really loves, and how she'll hold that close, or the death drive I've created that has like our family, like the best of videos, knowing that those things are not going to get lost. Or, it's the joy of knowing that the minute I die, everyone knows the number to call because I'm donating my body to science. And I keep saying to them, just call this number. That's all you have to do. Like, there's joy in that. There is real joy because we love the people we love, and we don't want them to have a moment of extra grief or suffering. So, Brenda, thanks. I think that, and also, to be honest, and again, I want to acknowledge all the people I interviewed, which were probably about 40 people, I think, in the book. And each of them brought their own element or aspect of joy. And you'll see, I hope you get the book. And you'll see that each of these beautiful people brought a different focus, and you could tell their energy and their joy for the process.
Speaking of your book, I just want to say, because it comes out November 4th, you can pre-order it, and the links are in the chat. So if anybody wants to grab it before this closes out and copy it so that they can get it right in there and order your copy, that's awesome.
Thank you, Rachel.
Because it talks about all these things, but it also has the practicality of creating the lists. It has the open spaces to to put your answers in, which is important, so you don't have to go to a bunch of different places. And it has a lot of resources both throughout the book and at the end of the book to help along the way to make it as easy as possible. So it really is a book worth having because it truly is a gift. It's a gift to ourselves, to the people we love, and it gets us to think about how we are living and how we are loving. And I think that is such a beautiful way to think about this, because that's what matters, is what we're doing.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for saying
Oh,
that.
thank you. And I just, oh, go ahead,
I
Brenda.
did want to say I've held Sherry's book in my hand. I'm so sad that I don't still have it. I had gotten an advanced copy from the printer last week, and then I took it and then I like poured over it, and my husband and I were looking at it, and he's like hard to impress, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, this is great. This came out." He's been hearing about it forever, and he was like, "It came out great." And then I took it to a sales meeting Friday, and I, like was talking about what I love about the book and how unique it is. And then like the person was like, "Can I have this?" And then they were pouring over it actually like during the meeting. And so what I can tell you is it's a book, it feels comforting in the hand. It's beautiful. It's and you can even have old eyes like me and like comfortably like read and like fill in the blanks and be inspired. But the thing I really took away from it is that it's infused with Sherry's energy. Like everybody that comes to Heart Wisdom and, anyone that ever encounters Sherry on any level is entranced by her kindness, her goodness, her shariness. Like she's a one of a kind person, you are. And like your energy is in the love list of a lifetime. And I didn't even realize that at first until I gave the book away, because he asked for it. And then later I was like, "Oh, I missed the book. Like I missed having it." So I've ordered more copies for myself and to give away to anyone that I think needs it. And that's pretty much everyone I know.
I love that, Brenda. Thank you. And I want to, it just reminds me, I really want to give a nod to Carmen, who designed the interior, because she's not here today, but she really, I think she just infused the design warmth. And also Joanna, who did the cover, which is, she's the same person who did Say It Now. And I feel so fortunate that it's like, I feel like Brenda brings with her like a little sprinkling of magic with everybody else that comes along, right? And so I just keep wanting to say that it's the people I interviewed, it's the designers, it's the cover. There were so many people who really contributed. And I put a link in the chat because there are some bonuses for people who buy the book. And one of those is a journal. And one of those is printable love lists so that you can print those out. And the other one is a conversation that I had with Paul Wesselman, who his company is like the Ripples guy. So he's all about infusing life with the ripples of love and joy. And our conversation just is a little bit like akin to this, which is, a lot of the like, what if I'm afraid? What if I don't want to face this? What if I feel scared? And Paul is just such a kind, compassionate soul. And so I love that interview too. So that's I'm hoping that people will get the bonuses because they really do support the book itself. Yeah. Ah, Kim.
Before we end, I do want to talk about one thing you talked about, because I think it's a great place to end, is the how you want to live with intention.
Yeah.
And the words. So if you can talk about that, because I think that will be a perfect way to drive us out of this, and we'll take a few breaths and really think with intention of how we want to enter our next moment.
Yeah. Right. Like, first of all, I'm so grateful to see each of you here and being willing to like be a part of a conversation like this, right? That in itself is a huge intention to say, I'm going to show up for a conversation like this. And then, of course, the next step is what do we do with that, right? So of course, I hope everyone buys the book and follows the book and gets the bonuses. Because of course, what I want is for us to actually live out what we feel aligned with, which I think is one of the most important pieces. And again, Rachel, you alluded to this. I think many of us have heard the regrets of the dying. And those regrets, a lot of them have to do with, not living the life we felt we were here to live. And I think a big part of that is our intention of, I want to be this kind of loving family member. I want to be this kind of spouse. I want to be this kind of friend. I want to be this way with strangers is one of my intentions. And so it's like, how do we actually, commit to those intentions? And I think that that's like one of the biggest questions we can each ask ourselves, right? And so obviously, I'm a huge fan of Brenda and all the books, and Rachel and JJ and Dianette, and I'm seeing who else. We've got so many authors here. I can't even name all of you, right? That when we buy a book, do we just read it and like, oh yeah, that was interesting, right? Or do we take it and do we apply it? Do we schedule on our calendar when we're going to apply what we've learned? And so I know that was a little long-winded, but I think it's really important that we take things beyond like, oh, this is kind of who I'd like to be, to that place of, oh, what's the first small step of how do I practice that? And then how do I actually, make this part of my character, which I hope, that's probably what Say It Now, that was my hope with Say It Now, is that we become people who express our love all the time. So, yeah.
So, Brenda, do you have any more final thoughts before we enter the exercise?
No, I do want to encourage people to like check out Sherry's book, and if you don't need it yourself, like probably somebody in your life does, because what we said at the very beginning is you never know what's going to happen. You never know. Things can surprise us, and so just think of your loved ones. Just think of your loved ones, and your Sherry's book will help you do them right.
All right. So, how I would love to end this is taking two words that we intend to bring into our next moment, how we want to live in the next moments that we're going to be out there, whether it's loving and grateful, kind and compassionate, whatever two words, just pick two.
Hmm.
And then let's just take 3 large, deep breaths together and then go into the moment. Ready? And with that, I hope whatever you intended, you bring into the next moment. Thank you so much all for being here and continuing a legacy of love by just simply showing up.
Rachel, thank you for being our host today. It was
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
what a gift. What a gift. And Brenda, thank you for being the fairy godmother of this and so many amazing books.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you all. What a beautiful gift to see each of you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you at the next Heart Wisdom.
Mhm.
Bye, everyone.